The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Wednesday after a Monday that we didn't have a show.
And it's a Wednesday after a city council meeting.
And a city council meeting. And since you mentioned that, I do want to make a little comment here because I have called the president. I noticed that they passed the veterans thing, which is good in light of the, but they missed the deadline. But there was also part of that resolution that talked about ensuring that the retirement board contacts these people. Well, I just want to, for the record, they all were contacted. It's part of the process, and the executive director, Christine Tetrault, still has the records of they were contacted via certified mail. So they were everyone involved was contacted. They may have missed their window, because they were new at a job, but for whatever reason, and it's an issue, and I've gone on record saying I don't think there should be a window. A veteran should get everything everything they deserve for serving their country. However, I think it was a little disingenuous of them to imply that this was because of an error or non-information on behalf of the retirement board. Christine Tetrault is a tremendously competent executive director, and everyone is contacted via certified mail, and the records do exist. And I said if there's a question, I encourage the president of the city council to call her and make that correction at the next city council meeting, because they were. This is an issue about people missing the window. And should they have the ability to refile? My personal opinion is yes. There cannot be enough done for people who wore the uniform of this country. And in Memorial Day on Monday, that was not a cookout day. It was a day to remember those who gave their lives in service to their country. So I think it's important that we make that note. And while we're on that note, I'll segue to show you about everybody. We have a war raging in Afghanistan now for about 17 years. We still have people all over the globe in harm's way, and they are forgotten many times on Memorial Day. People give a passing thought, but remember every single day. And it's easy with the society we have that you're not mandated to go into the military like you are in Israel, to forget and then wave a flag on one day and then forget about them for the other 364 days. And even with our VA, they don't get the service they deserve. So I'm going to share with you a text I got from my son that was forwarded to me. He got it from a friend who he went to undergrad college with, who chose to go into the military and make it a career. He became a career military officer. And it speaks to something that is a very, very prominent problem for veterans today, not only homelessness, but this problem. And I will read you the text. Hey guys, had a buddy I served with in Afghanistan, Staff Sergeant Walton, committed suicide. He was a Purple Heart winner and the Bronze Star for Valor. He did a total of 6 tours in Afghanistan. So today's a bad day for America, and no one knows. Just want you to let you guys know that there are great people out there in the world, but the nation is blind to them. And that is so true. He's just a name to some people, but he's more than a name to this country. Now, that individual who sent this, I know personally. He went to college with my son. He came to my home. He served this country as a career Army officer. So there are hundreds and thousands of Staff Sergeant Waltons every day who give their lives for this country, and that's what Memorial Day means. And many of them, because of the multiple tours they're serving today, are committing suicide. It's an epidemic with our veterans today. So let's keep that in mind, and let's remember the sacrifices that are being made every single day for this nation.
Well, you know, I have to put in something here which goes right to the heart of this. We had a Memorial Day celebration this weekend, and the turnout to watch this, to participate in this, was piss poor. The parade was amply filled with veterans, with people who support veterans, with bands, with everything. And people complained, well, where's the tanks? Where's the Jeeps? Where's the military equipment? And there weren't enough people on the sidelines to fill a restaurant. That shows you how many people were interested. Then they had a ceremony at Government Center. It barely filled the room. Barely filled the room.
Yeah, it's a sad commentary, but obviously there are many veterans who share this day with only their friends or maybe alone, because it's a little too emotional, and they have personal relationships with people who died serving their country, and they really don't. You know, some of them just don't like to be in those scenarios. But something you said is very to the point, and that is, you know, this is not a parade to, you know, for the entertainment of the population. Where's the tanks? Where's the Jeeps? Where's the balloons? This is a Memorial Day. This is a very solemn day. This is a day that's dedicated to the people who died, who made the ultimate sacrifice for their nation. And just the presence of some veterans who chose to march there, they should be honored. And the memory of the people who are not marching, that's what this day is about, the people who aren't there. Staff Sergeant Walton's friends, the people who served with him on those 6 tours in Afghanistan. This day is a very personal day. All veterans remember the sacrifice that veterans who died in every war gave and who served their nation. But you know, it is very, very personal to veterans who have had men they served with die in the line of duty. And then commit, or even worse, which is to me an absolute travesty, that they don't get the care they need, whether it's because they won't seek it or because they can't get it. That we have such an epidemic of suicides among our military personnel who come back and have such a difficult time readjusting after multiple tours. This individual, 6 tours of duty, you know, and he was wounded. That text also went on to the particulars of his machine gun got hit with a round, and he got hit with shrapnel from his own machine gun and hit him in the neck armor, and he was wounded, and you know, but he served. And it's a very, very personal day, and as you said, this country should turn out. Some veterans may not decide they don't want to be part, they want to do it in their own way, maybe. sit at home and have a drink in honor of their friends. But, you know, it's the people who don't have to go in anymore. There's no draft. The people who are playing on Facebook and worrying about minutia while men stand ready to give and make the supreme sacrifice for their nation gives them the right to do what they're doing. And because we tend to forget now. How many people remember military? How many times do you see the losses in Afghanistan? Only once in a while when there's a major bombing or something like that. There are soldiers and sailors and airmen and Marines dying every day throughout this world, not only in Afghanistan and Iraq, but in Somalia and every other place where there are American troops. And it's something that we tend to forget because, you know, it's an all-volunteer military now, and there's no draft. You know, the people who don't want to serve their nation get a free ride. So I think it's very, very important. Memorial Day is a very, very solemn day, and you're right, CJ. You know, the streets should have been filled with people who really are recognizing what these people have done. And a good friend of mine who was a DI once at Fort Dix, he was from Fall and lived in Fall River for a while, Ernie Imbo, had a great picture in his leather shop. It was a parade, and the picture showed a man standing there holding his granddaughter's hand and saluting a flag that was passing by with his prosthesis. He lost an arm and a leg, and he was still saluting his flag. So that's an extremely telling photograph. And I'm still a little upset with Ernie. He said he was going to give me a copy of that before he moved to Arizona, and I never did. And one of these days, I'm going to track him down in Arizona and get that photograph because it really means, it says something to me. It's a dramatic photo. It shows a man that sacrificed 2 limbs for his country, still respecting his flag and his brothers in arms. So it disturbs me sometimes when you see the lack of recognition and empathy for these people. And as I said, it's a very, very rampant issue. So, you know, military suicides are epidemic. As a matter of fact, one of the new TV series, SEAL Team, I think the last episode of the season was about a former retired SEAL who couldn't get the medical attention he needed at the VA, committing suicide. And you see that every once in a while. They do it on television to kind of highlight it, and then at the end they talk about the epidemic rate we have, but who knows about it? Very, very few people. And we're talking about it today, so maybe we'll make you recognize the sacrifices and you know, pay a little attention. We do have a military, and they're out there right now as we speak, you know, standing guard. And as Colonel Jessup once said, we want them on that wall. We need them on that wall, protecting our rights. So with that,
Well, while we're on memorial items here, Al Alves, former city councilor, former mayoral candidate, passed away on Sunday. And he was also the owner of the TA restaurant for many, many years. Linda Purr has come out and, you know, she served with Al on the city council and said Al's treated her as an equal from the time she was first elected. Al was a very generous guy. He really was. I mean, I knew Al personally. It's a great loss. I saw him at a celebration a few weeks ago where he was in a wheelchair on oxygen. He didn't look like he was going to make it for much longer, so I'm glad they gave him the recognition that he deserved while he was still here.
And he was a very good city councilor. He did very
Yes.
well in that mayoral election. And many of the things he forecasted when he was running for mayor, and I think he finished third, actually, and many of the things he forecasted came to fruition. He was a very astute guy. Again, there's another example of a man who didn't get the credit he deserved because he didn't, maybe his articulation of the English language wasn't perfect, and some people construed that as not being, but he was a very bright guy. He was a very good businessman, and he was a good city councilor. As always, that every issue, we didn't agree on every issue, but he was a fiscal conservative. He was actually a Republican. Many people don't know that.
He was.
But Al Alves was a Republican, and he was a fiscal conservative. But he was a very, very good city councilor, and it's a loss to the community, and I'm glad you brought that up, because you know me, I don't read the paper unless I have to.
Well, and
actually, somebody had to call me to let me know of his passing, and otherwise I would have found out 3 weeks later.
Right. What was interesting was I found out about it initially, like moments after he died. He died Sunday in Charlton Memorial Hospital. Because where did it go right away? Right on Facebook. It was all over Facebook within moments after he passed away, it seemed. But for people who might be interested, his visitation will take place on Thursday, tomorrow, from 9 a.m. to 10:15 a.m. at the Manuel Rogers and Sons Funeral Home, 1521 North Main Street, Fall River, followed by an 11 a.m. Mass of Christian burial in St. Michael's Church. Interment will be at Notre Dame Cemetery. In lieu of flowers, memorial contributions in Al's memory may be made to the St. Michael's Soup Kitchen, 189 Essex Street, Fall River. And that was the type of person Al was.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Altruistic till the end. Yeah. Very a good, a great loss to the city of Fall River. And as you said, Facebook, but since I don't really do Facebook, yet that's one of the other reasons I didn't know. As you said, it was instantaneously on Facebook, but I don't do Facebook because I don't really want to know where everybody on the planet is and when they're going shopping and everything else. But,
I know.
It does have some stuff like this that you can get information, but I just don't have the kind of ability to digest all the totally useless information. To me, Facebook is a vast cesspool of useless knowledge.
Well, and the thing too about about Facebook and other internet sources, you have to kind of swim through it to find the truth sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm not really into digging things out. So,
yeah.
But when the message came out from Linda Pereira, I knew it was true.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah. Swimming through Facebook is like swimming upstream at the sewerage plant.
Exactly.
So here we go. But all right, let's get down to some a little business here. We have this great article. Well, first of all, Mayor Carrere's appearance postponed for the 5th time. Let me get a tirade on that one. I mean, look, I don't know what the feds are doing, but please, somebody tell the feds to go in and say, listen, look, Reddington, if you take a case, work on a case. You can't use an excuse that you haven't had time to read it. How long has this thing been getting dragged out? How many other new clients have you taken on since then? And we know it because we see it in the news. Because you don't have enough help or you're too lazy and you're taking more new clients so you can get paid and get your retainers. Let's get this over with. This is like the Chinese water torture. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, it's like, is he going to start rivaling how long it takes to get somebody executed on death row? What's the average death row sentence? It's like 25 years before they execute someone. So now we're going to have, what's Jason going to do? Is he going to be on Social Security or pension before he goes to trial? I mean, this is just, it's just unacceptable. I don't know how the courts continue to grant this guy continuances because he's not prepared. That's what he gets paid to do. He got hired. Try the case. You know, try the damn case. This is crazy.
Well, and what was interesting was the last time that he got a continuance, the court said there will be no more continuances.
Yeah.
But I guess this is no more continuances, right?
Yeah, I guess no more. Now they won't call it a continuance. They'll say it was postponed.
Right.
So now we'll change the verbiage, but it is a continuance. And I guess, you know, Reddington is well worth the money. I guess he's a really good whiner because he gets in front of a federal court after they say, you know, this is it, and he gets another bite of the apple.
Yep.
I know, you know, who knows? You know, we may not be at trial before the next election. So that'll mean batten down the hatches. Here we go again.
Here we go again, exactly.
But now we get to the real how mass education spending ranks nationwide. And this is Boston, Mass. How mass ranks. And they've got a whole bunch of statistics and a whole bunch of studies here.
Not that it came from a reliable source.
Not that it came from a reliable source.
The U.S. Department of Census. It's not
The U.S. and all these figures came from the U.S. Census. Yep. But who cares about them? Those are the ones I always quote, and they go, oh well. But you know what? Are we going to put this on our Facebook on our page?
We can.
Yeah, let everybody, because you know, I don't want to get too specific with this because basically it doesn't say anything. There's all kinds of contradictions, and we've come up with nothing. It says nationally, average spending per student pre-K through 12th increased 3.7% to $12,000 during fiscal year. Among the states, numbers range from as low as $7,179 per student in Utah, which puts out some pretty good students.
Right.
All the way up to, guess where? New York, 23,000, and Massachusetts spent an average of 16,000. But then we look at these other things. Findings, authors conclude, suggested educational systems and even schools in the same system differ in their ability to translate more spending into smarter kids. These studies, another quote, overwhelmingly support a causal relationship between increased school spending and student outcomes, but that's, look, the bottom line is, again, figures don't lie, but liars can figure. You can take data and interpret it and manipulate it to interpret what you want. What this says is they have good students that are getting $7,000 per student and good students at $23,000 a student. Where's the money spent? And I think it says even within systems there is a deviation. Why? It's about learning time. Is the money being spent to give the student the maximum amount of learning time? Is it being spent on things that actually allow a student to enhance their learning experience? Or is it spent on administrators and CEOs and attendance takers and whatever? You know, the bottom line is public education has been proven to be far less effective than private education because the public panacea to all educational problems is to throw money, hire more administrators, get more studies, do more, have more counselors, have more everything. And, you know, other people learn from what works. In private industry, does something a way that's very cost effective, allows you, they throw money at it. And you know, they'll say, well, Fall River doesn't spend as much as the rest of Massachusetts. Who cares? And then they'll blame it because we don't spend as much. Well, okay, let's quadruple it and let's spend $23,000 per student like they do in New York State on an average and see if that helps. We spent a lot less many years ago when we were producing a higher level of education. So money doesn't cure the problem. What money does is give all your friends jobs and pay raises.
And that's in the story.
Yeah.
That's in the story. It says here, Massachusetts spent $16,197 per pupil in 2017, which, by the way, Massachusetts may have, but Fall River didn't. Fall River spent about $10,000. A figure that is the 8th highest in the country and nearly 33% above the national average. The data showed.
That's a third, by the way, if you don't know what 33%
Right.
is. That's one-third above it.
Instructional costs, this is where it went to, including teacher salaries and benefits, accounted for $10,000 of that amount. The rest went for support services, including administration. And what do we always say on this program? It always goes to Jobs for Friends.
That's right. So,
Deans of students.
yeah.
Deans of the student of students.
Well, it is, well, when you look at it, we'll round it off, 1617, but 6,000 of the 10,000, so it's 6/10, which is 3/5.
Right.
3/5 we know is what? That's 60%,
Right.
right? Right? So 60% of what's spent is spent on administration. Really? Do we really need to spend 60% when the primary duty of an educational system is to educate children? And I know that it's probably higher in Fall River than 60%. Do we need a dean of students for middle school children? When everybody else who actually got an education from school many years ago, first time they ever saw a dean of students is when they got to college. Do we need CFOs and COOs and building maintenance when we have a city building maintenance in charge of all buildings? All these things, as you said, 60%. So,
But that's only a small amount, you know?
yeah, well, you know, in proportion, obviously 6,000 versus 10,000, that's, 6,000 is 60%. So you're spending virtually almost as much on administration, more than half, as you do with actually by supplies. You deduct that from the 10,000. We're probably actually spending more on administration than we are on actual students, because when you look at the 10,000, it includes everything, including the expenditures on books and things. So, this is just crazy. All this article says or confirms is that we can have 15 studies, we're going to get 15 different answers, and all of them come to one conclusion. They're all contradictory, and the reality is that you get the education based on how the money and how the resources are utilized. The one-room schoolhouse is capable of producing an exceptional student versus the school that is replete with administrators and deans of students and counselors and everybody else. So the reality is that there's a variation by this article within systems. So,
And about the one-room schoolhouse, all you got to do is ask Rhode Island, because they have one right in Middletown.
yeah, they were trying to shut it down.
They're trying
and
to
there
shut it down, but they're going to keep it open, and it's producing fine students.
Yeah, and we've produced many fine students in this community long before we had all these administrative jobs. So what's the moral of that story? As we always say, if you want to waste your money, give it to your government.
That's it. Hey, it's been great seeing you. I'm glad we're back. We'll see you on Friday. Stay angry, everybody, and have a good day.